The greatest creation ever made is eternity. A typical individual is not even aware of the existence of eternity. Eternity holds everything that has ever happened, known and unknown. Eternity holds everything that is happening today, and eternity holds everything that will ever happen. You know how scientists say that the earth is billions upon billions of years old? If you were to put all the billions of years together, it would still be a speck in eternity. That is how vast eternity is. So God resides in the domain of eternity. You and I, we live in an interruption of eternity called time. That is all time is. Time is an interruption in eternity. So you and I came from eternity past. We are here for a very meager duration, and then we will slip into eternity future. That is where you and I belong. So eternity only has two openings. The only way interruption of eternity happens to eternity now, which is time, is through a woman's birth canal. The only way we exit and we transit into eternity future is when you and I will be buried. So eternity has those two openings. It's important to understand that whatsoever has slipped into eternity retains that state. So that means if you are a drunk in time, the moment you sleep and you enter into eternity in your drunken state, you are a drunk forever. If you are a fornicator in time, the moment you slip into eternity in fornication state, you are a fornicator forever in all eternity. So that is what eternity is. So there are three elements of eternity. There is eternity past, everything that has ever happened. You can go as way back as when God determined existence of eternity. That is eternity past. You and I came from eternity past. There is eternity now. Eternity now happens at two levels. God commands the affairs of men now. God lives in eternity. Whenever we have communion and relationship of God, sometimes we get to experience episodes and snippets of eternity. Then eternity now is what it's called the interruption of time. When you are on this other side, then you're experiencing eternity now in specks of time. Then there is eternity future. So those are the three elements. Those are the three dimensions of eternity. That is important because it helps us to fully appreciate this interruption in moment we call time. This interruption that you and I are only guaranteed, God being gracious, 72 years. After 72 years, you'll be making your way to slip into eternity future. There are two important indicators of time that I would want us to consider: chronos and kairos. Chronos are the time units that help us to appreciate the passage of time. So time units begin from seconds, make up a minute. Minutes make up an hour. Hours make up different segments of the day: dawn, morning, mid-morning, afternoon, evening, night, dawn. So that is how succession of hours make up different aspects of the day. Then when the hours are full, they form up days. When days are put together, they form up weeks. When weeks are put together, they form up months. When months are put together, they form up years. If we put up years together, they form up decades. When we put decades together, they form up centuries. When we put centuries together, they form up millennia. So those are what we are appreciating as time units. So the passage of time units, as far as influencing the affairs and the agenda of men is what it's called chronos. Chronos is where we get the English word chronology, the passage of the human species in time. So that passage of human species in time, when you're observing it in manageable time units, is what we regard as chronos. Such and such, the father died, and this is the successor of the father. This is the grandchild. So those are the passages. Then there is another element of time we call kairos. Kairos is a fulfillment of time, but more than time, kairos is a fulfillment of purpose. When time is defined in purpose, then that definition of time is called kairos, the fulfillment of a purpose that all of us have. So there is a purpose that all of us carry in our time, and that purpose will define your existence. The day you came to a full understanding of why you are here, that one defines your kairos moments. And from that point, you begin to make very circumspect decisions in managing and handling your time, because you realize at that very moment that time counts. Kairos is seasons of life. Kairos are the seasons of life defining your purpose in every season of life. So at that point, it really doesn't matter in what time units. What really matters is, have you figured what you ought to do in a particular time? So kairos transcends over chronos. A kairos can go for a decade. A kairos can only go for 6 months. A kairos can go for 60 years. It really doesn't matter. A kairos defines its purpose. A kairos defines its season. A kairos defines moments. The reason why every one of us lives for our kairos moments is fulfillment originates from you accomplishing a purpose. This question originates from the proverb of the week we had last week. And the proverb meant on a point that, is it possible to lengthen your day? Is it possible to have longer years? So that proverb presupposes that there are two important moving elements. There are days that can be lengthened, then there are years that are longer. Or there are days that can be shortened, but the years are still longer. Or the days can be longer, but the years can be shortened. So it's important for us to understand then, does every individual only have 24 hours? Is it possible to transcend the 24-hour mark? And that is what this question is arriving at. In what ways then can we have longer days? Can we lengthen our days beyond the ordinary, the typical 24-hour time unit? There are two ways that I would want us to touch on. One, we lengthen our days by appreciating the importance or the roles those days play in unlocking the purpose of the individual. So when you start living in the purpose of your existence, then the purpose of your existence transcends the nominal passage of time, the chronos passage of time. Majority of us, we just live on the 24-hour loop. Majority of us live at the 7-day loop, the 30-day loop, the 12-month year loop. But few of us, we have entered into spaces that now we are defining our existence by purpose. An individual who defines their existence by purpose has transcended the nominal time units. Nominal simply means by name. This is midday. This is night. This is dawn. So most of us, when we restrict our affairs, when we restrict our activities to the simple passage of time, then we restrict ourselves into the units, the loops that are informed by those units. So one of those ways that an individual can lengthen your days, and it's much more fulfilling to identify that this is the purpose I live for. One of those verses that we have is from the book of Acts. And the book of Acts tells us something incredible, that after David had served the purpose of God for his generation. So one of the ways of you lengthening is to appreciate purpose, because a purpose is generational. A purpose is transcendative of it. It transcends beyond time. It transcends beyond loops and beyond units. So one of those ways is, the only way you can lengthen your day is to discover purpose. Another way that all of us should actually consider lengthening our days is by allowing other people to contribute their units to our units. It's possible to allow and to get people to contribute their units on Chronos to your own unit of Chronos. This one happens in employment. When you get people to believe in what you're doing and to contribute their participation and their involvement, one of the ways that we contribute in the participation or in the agenda and the affairs of others is when we contribute our time. Contribution of time means that I believe in what you're doing, and more importantly, I want to be part of it. The only way I can be part of what you're doing is when I give you a segment of my day. According to the marketplace today, that is 8 hours. So imagine, when you're setting up to do an agenda, when you set off to do an agenda and you require 80 hours and you are only one, that means you're overwhelmed. But if you can manage to get 9 people to donate to you 8 hours each in a day, while a typical person has 8 hours of productivity, get what you have. You have 80 hours of productivity in a day. Imagine what that translates to in 5 days. So when a typical individual only has 400 hours in a week, you tend to have 400 hours in a week. So one of the ways that you and I can be able to lengthen our days is to have people believe in what we are doing and become part of what we are doing. The marketplace calls it employment. And that is why when you employ someone, more importantly than getting their talent, getting their judgment, getting their productivity, you also get slices of their day. You get segments of their contribution in time loops, the things that we are calling time units. So that is one of the ways that each one of us should learn to lengthen our days. So let me ask you, of the 2 ways, which one appeals to you more? Of the 2 ways that you can lengthen your day, which one are you going to start with? So in the comment section, just tell me, Mr. Guang, of the 2, the one that appeals to me more is 1. And 1 simply means that you lengthen your days when you define your days by moments, by season. And the seasons is Kairos. Or B, Mr. Guan, I lengthen, or what has appealed to me in lengthening my days, I want to find people to employ. So that is how I wanted to respond to this question. I'm really sorry that it took me 1 week, because I couldn't put all this in merely typing in the comment section. So kindly forgive me for having taken 1 week, but I really want to hope that I have now answered it to you in ways that you can learn and you can begin to employ. My name is Ogwang. I am the principal at Franchise and Licensing Institute. If you found value in this content, kindly consider rewarding me with a like, with a share, and let's interact in the comment section. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care. God bless and bye-bye.